For more on this, I'd like to bring in a former police officer, founder of managing principal of the Active Shooter Prevention Project, Chris Grollnek. Chris, thank you for giving us some of your time today. So let's focus in on the big headline here. A person had been taken into custody, has since been released. Investigators say that the ongoing investigation is now leading them elsewhere. What is most important in tracking down the person responsible at this point?
Well, I think it would be to calm the situation for the families of the fallen victims and the tragic outcome of the other victims that have been either affected or injured, whether they are deceased or hospitalized. It's really no surprise that they had one announcement that someone was in custody shortly thereafter the incident took place and quickly released. And then they announced another one. I wouldn't say out of haste, because this department's doing a lot very well. These incidents are so tragic and they take so many resources up. It's difficult to follow them logically. And from the outside, we just want to know why police can't just go, quote unquote, capture the person. Maybe one of the, not missteps, but things that they could have held back on is we have a person of interest, and without getting the hopes of, and I said this on another broadcast the night of, if they're looking for a person that wearing all black and it's a male, I wouldn't count on those types of descriptions, because in panic, oftentimes the first witness accounts are just wrong. And with the lack of video evidence, actually is pretty shocking. In this day and age, with cameras not having video analytics or some type of detection software or metal detectors or magnetometers at entrances that would have alerted somebody coming into a building with some type of weapon of that dense nature, it would have been able to alert a camera to say, pay attention to this scene, and whatever was on the outside of that aperture would have reported back to the police. Now, if those do exist, they haven't said that publicly yet. But what are they doing right now? Probably searching for DNA. The magazines that were left behind, there were 2 of them that had 30 rounds in them. Somebody had to touch those with fingerprints. So I'm sure they're exploring all those avenues.
And I would like to talk to you, Chris, a little bit more about the video evidence or lack thereof. But first, since this manhunt is now back on, we know police are doing their very best, but it is now day 3. That means that this person really has had a significant amount of time to flee. Where do investigators look when he could be presumably anywhere?
Well, the procedures for this would be obviously some type of digital footprint, whether it's a phone or, what we'll call a burner for this broadcast, because your viewers, I'm sure, would understand what that is a toss-away phone. There's methods and sources that you can tie phones together, whether they're a burner or not, and I won't give away how that's done. However, you can do a digital footprint that way, and no matter how many phones you dispose of, you can still get it brought back to you by pattern of life or pattern of behavior. So the loop that we're watching of this one person walking, we don't know if that's the subject they actually took into custody or detained for questioning yesterday and then released, or if that's actually the perpetrator of this evil deed that did it. So we need to be careful about focusing on one thing, because we can see that following these tragedies, it's not that the information is deliberately wrong. It's just our central nervous system overrides our conscious thought, and we don't really remember what we need to remember, and we fill in the blanks depending on our experience in life.
You bring up such a good point there, yeah, because we don't know for sure that this is the shooter that we're looking at. So, Chris, we have seen some newly released video showing students huddled. Here it is right there. They were in the library. That was before police came in to safely evacuate them. But there is, you talked about it, seemingly limited video evidence of the suspect, if that person that we saw walking even is the suspect. My question, do you think that is by design? Do you think that is a coincidence? I mean, do you think that that is due to pre-planning by this suspect, or do you think that authorities are just not releasing all of the evidence that they are poring over?
Honestly, I would say it's probably all of the above. And the reason I took that visible sigh, I mean, I'm a human, right? I study homicide for a living. This is all I do. Unfortunately, when kids are involved or children, even in higher education, they're still children. You have to look at this through the lens of not just a parent, but a community member. And now the outrage of really not failures, but the results of 26 years of these types of active shooters. And I'm going to directly answer your question, but this isn't for consoling efforts. However, active shooters in schools have been around since 1784. That's the first recorded active shooter in a school. However, we haven't really started watching these until they were broadcast in 1999 on April 20th due to Columbine. And we've seen an accelerated growth pattern. So these shooters, to answer your question about maybe perhaps the intelligence of the perpetrator, do they know where the cameras are and did they deliberately avoid them? Maybe there is more camera footage and the police are keeping it close hold so they don't release their own sources and methods. That's probable. However, I wouldn't think it's from the campus. I would think it's from the peripheral, like as in stores or locations or ring doorbells around the neighborhood, and they're probably gathering and collecting that information. As far as not having cameras at the campus, I know they do, but possibly they weren't working or they did not function correctly, which is all possible, technical glitches. It was a Saturday, day 2 of testing, not a normal day to be attending school. Perhaps they did a limited power surge or recycle on their camera system. And there's too many variables to quote without knowing. And I don't want to hypothesize, but I do want to give a broader picture and context of why you're not getting what you want. And I don't mean Nicole, I mean the public. And why we're not understanding what's happening. So if you'd allow me 1 minute, I'll just tell you, this incident happened at 0 minutes and it ended at about 8. The average active shooter in the past 26 years from 1999 to today happened in 0 minutes to 8 minutes. And the normal police time to respond is 8 minutes. The police here took 17 minutes. And that's not because they were slow or deliberately slow. It takes time to gather your information to get there. So we are counting on pure response. And what you're witnessing 3 days later is the aftermath of a response mindset. If we can't figure it out what happens where they commit suicide, they're killed by police, or they just give up, those are the only 3 outcomes of an active shooter, then you see this, a manhunt for a perpetrator. And for whatever reason, they've been able to evade and elude capture. I doubt that's going to be the case for much longer. But the confidence level of the public is low because of the 2 false narratives that they had somebody. We just have to give the police some time, and the national conversation needs to come back to prevention. Let's stop these from happening. More cameras, but not for surveillance, for good. Analytics, weapons detection like metal detectors at doors that alert if something's coming in, and some type of system to notify. Because if that was my child in those classrooms, I'd have a different conversation with you on this platform.
Absolutely. Chris Grollnek, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Nicole. Anytime.